All right, that was a big touchdown by Dak Prescott just before the half. Cowboys 13, Eagles 3, right here on Sunday Night Football.
You were tied up with some technical production stuff as I arrived. Did you get to see the Zeke Elliott hurdle of the defender?
I did not.
Oh, you'll see it.
Okay.
It's one of the plays of the year. It's one of the plays of the year.
We had a Tyron Johnson hurdle yesterday. This is a Bedlam-a-dish of the Rant. Cade McFarland alongside Bill Haston. We were texting back and forth earlier today, and you called it a flawed classic. And I thought, that's pretty much perfect. I love this ball game. And as I told you a little bit earlier, really to me, Oklahoma State is what made it special. I mean, the greatness of OU's offense is always just a pleasure to watch. And it was on full display again yesterday. And I said, I don't know how many people, that was about as good as I think OSU could play defensively. Maybe you wouldn't say that about the first quarter or so. But the final three, that was about as good as they could play defensively. OU still goes for 700 yards, 350 and 350. But I thought the grit and the fight OSU showed, the game plan was really, really good, and the way the kids went about executing it. And then throwing into the end zone on a two-point conversion to take the lead with a minute left. This game was a whole lot of fun, man.
It was. It was, you know, to limit Oklahoma to 2 touchdowns in Norman in the second half for Taylor Cornelius, really for the team as a whole to come off of that debacle at Baylor a few days earlier, and to regroup and to go to Norman and stress the heck out of a team that's contending to win another Big 12.
Look at the fans. This is before the two-point conversion.
Oh yeah, they're
the
sick.
Angst.
They're sick.
Now there was still a minute left, so I think OU would have driven and at least given themselves a shot. But this was the big play. You know, Cornelius rolling right, which has been an issue at different times this year, and just missed the throw. This is the best shot we have from behind. You know, I mean, Wallace there was a window there.
Right.
And the throw just wasn't great. Cornelius admitted that himself afterwards.
I don't know. I mean, like I told you before we started, I have watched that play now at least 24 times, and I had no issue with Gundy leaving his offense on the field for the two-point play. OSU had tons of momentum. Like you said, their offensive line was really, you talk about OSU playing its best game of the year, the offensive line played by far its best game of the year for Oklahoma State.
And how about some of the body language and confidence from those guys in the second half as they were beginning to push OU around?
Right.
You saw O-linemen celebrating in a way I haven't all year long. You know, if we'd seen that all year long, OSU would be in a very different place than they are. It's a shame.
Right.
But it was still fun that it happened the way it did last night. I mean, flawed classic, exactly right. I mean, Cowboys are 5-5 for a reason, but that was their A game yesterday.
No, but I mean, in regard to the 5-5, when you've got Justice Hill, Tylan Wallace, a developing, emerging Chuba Hubbard, who's this close to stardom, you got no business being 5-5. You got no business scrambling for bowl eligibility, Caden, as we're creeping up on mid-November. That's ridiculous. And now you got to try to get to that 6-win mark against West Virginia. I mean, they're going to mess around and not go to a bowl, although TCU is
they're pretty bad.
Really bad.
But that is a road game at the end. Who knows? And look, OSU's been up and down, obviously, over the last month and really maybe since Big 12 play began. But this was as up as they could be. I think Tylan Wallace, I mean, we should probably spend some time talking about his performance. He was always open. I mean, we know that OU's DBs have issues, and people have had success against them all year long. But the success he had yesterday, I mean, that was eye-opening. I knew he was good. I knew he was a Bolitnikoff guy. You've written about it in the last couple of weeks. But that was his best performance.
Well, now, if you combine his numbers, Tylan Wallace's numbers against Texas and OU.
Wow, yeah.
20 catches, 400-plus yards in those 2 games. I mean, he's you know, Tylan Wallace is not a developing star. He is a star.
He's a star.
In my mind, he's already there, and he's one of the best receivers in the country. But for Cornelius, I really, I think our sports editor, I think Michael Peters used the word maligned in what he wrote last night. What a good word. I mean, it's true.
Much maligned.
He's a maligned quarterback. And so for him to come off of, you remember the K-State game, he was below 50%. He was picked off a couple times, less than 200 yards. And then, you know, the Baylor game was awful for that whole offense. And then, but for Taylor Cornelius to go to Norman, Oklahoma in his one shot in the Bedlam game.
1,000 yards.
Yeah, and become the only quarterback in OSU history to throw for 500 yards in a Bedlam game and to have only the third 500-yard performance in the history of OSU football. Whedon did it once, Mason did it once, and now the maligned Taylor Cornelius did it on Owen Field. He was sensational. Now, you know, and I got a couple of emails and a couple of Facebook comments, well, he missed receivers in the second quarter and he missed some open guys. Well, yeah, he did. You know why? Why? Because that's Taylor Cornelius. He's not on Kyler Murray or Baker Mayfield's level of efficiency. He's not that kind of quarterback.
He just followed his best throw of the day, potentially, that 4th and 12 completion to Tylen for the touchdown, with just an out-and-out miss on the 2-point conversion that would have put you. I mean, that's who he is. That said, as you mentioned, much maligned. I can't tell you how much I'm pulling for this guy to win one of these final 2, get to a bowl game and win it. I just would love to see, because this is his only chance. It would have been so fun to see him win yesterday because of all that.
Right.
And again, look, OU people, I'm not cheering for OSU. I'm just, anyway. Taylor Cornelius would have been a great story yesterday. That's it. Because it didn't happen, man, I'd love to see this guy get to a bowl game. Because I've been one of those people who wanted to see another quarterback play, you know, and this was his only shot. And, I mean, they are just college kids. So I love the way he responded, without a doubt. Talking about OU now, they do keep their college football playoff hopes alive. We said last week after the 51-46 defeat at Texas Tech, this is not a championship team. Even if they find their way into the playoff, they are not beating Alabama, Clemson. I'm more resolute in that opinion than I was even a week ago. This defense isn't good anywhere, Bill. No. D-line, linebackers, defensive backfield. They're not elite at any level. There's nothing they can hang their hat on.
Not really. Not coverage, not tackling, not pressure.
Right.
There's nothing.
They're not good at anything.
No, they're not consistent at anything.
That's right.
They occasionally
when they get stops, it's like the stops just happen to them. There's, you know, by accident, you get somebody off the field once in a while, and it's enough to win when you got Kyler Murray, but they don't actually step up and stop anybody necessarily.
Yeah, you know, you're right.
It's just a fluky thing.
So, but what the OU formula now is, after a month, I think we can call it a formula. You run for 300 yards. Kyler Murray completes 72%, as he's done 9 of 10 games now, at least 72%. That used to be, if somebody completed 72%, that was like a headline. I mean, that was the headline of the game, and now
lead the country for a year right now.
So OU's had this unbelievable 4-year run of quarterback play. Unbelievable, historically, Well, they're about to send another. They're about to send their 4th guy in 3 years to New York for the Heisman. Just an unbelievable, and no school's ever won back-to-back Heismans, and I still think Tua Tagovailoa is the favorite, maybe heavy favorite.
He may not even have to throw another touchdown pass the rest of the year. Bama could just shut out their final 3 opponents, and they'll give him the Heisman.
Unfair or fair, but I mean, part of that too is that, you know, he started getting Heisman run in April.
Yeah.
I mean, when
I don't think he's better than Kyler Murray.
I don't either.
I mean, I think Kyler Murray's the superior player, but the Heisman has just become so much about the team success. And because Alabama will, at the end of the year, likely have clearly had a better year than OU, that'll be the tiebreaker.
And you know, another ridiculous component in the Heisman voting will be that there'll be people who say, well, I'm not going to give it to 2 Oklahoma quarterbback back to back. I'm not doing that.
There'll be some of that,
Otherwise, Jason White had in some regards, Jason White had a better year statistically in 04 than 03 and finished a distant, 3rd or 4th.
How about
for the
this?
Heisman.
Who's going to be the 3rd guy in New York? Very well could be Will Greer, West Virginia. You probably have Big 12 guys splitting votes. I mean, this has become very much a regional thing. And SEC, that voting block, they're going for Tua in a big way. I mean, you can probably just go ahead and mail it to him. His knee's a bit of an issue. If he doesn't play in the final 2 or 3 games, it becomes really interesting because Kyler's numbers will be incredible. And
Kyler was, you know, I mean, I think we led the show more with Taylor Cornelius because there was the great unknown with Taylor, and you didn't know if he would be here or here.
That's what made the game special,
but instead,
he was coming up to this level.
No doubt.
We knew OU was their offense would play up here.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it was OU was either going to win 48-21 or 48-47. Yeah. And so that's the way. I mean, it's I don't know. You know, is OSU cursed? Is there really a curse on Mike Gundy in Bedlam? Or I mean, if you really study it, he's 2-12, but he could have won 06. Now I'm talking about either a tipped pass, away from winning in 06, 2010, 2012. If you make a tackle in the backfield in 2012, you don't go to overtime and lose. Right. If you tackle Blake Bell in the backfield, as you had a chance to,
they weren't the better team in 2012. They were every bit as good as OU,
right?
Without a doubt.
Oh yeah, that was a pretty evenly matched game.
Same thing.
13, if you catch an interception in the cold, God. You win the Big 12 and you win Bedlam. Yeah. Last year, OSU down, I think 4 points with possession late in the game after Mayfield gets picked in the end zone by Whitener. I'm like, but they can't capitalize there. And then yesterday, they're on the shadow of the goal line and can't punch it in for 2 points. So I don't know. I mean, the OSU people have to be sick. You know they're sick, of course, with 2-12. But
yes.
You know what?
And I think that will hurt more as time goes on. I talked to a bunch of OSU people at church today, and there was some pretty good perspective. I think people like it when they see their team given their very best.
Sure.
And I think that's what OSU fans saw yesterday. And most of the people I've talked to or heard from, I think were pleased with obviously not happy with the outcome.
Right.
But they can live with that one a whole lot more than they can live with, I'm thinking of like 2016 in Norman, where they lost by 18 with the squad they thought was every bit as good. Last year, you could probably throw that one in more than this one. This was a team maximizing what it had, just missing a throw at the end.
2016, wasn't that the game where the play calling was so conservative? You just wondered, what in the heck? Are you not even trying to win here?
2016 was one of those where people just absolutely pulled their hair out with regard to Gundy's game plan. I guess there have been a couple of those.
The pinnacle moment of the season for Oklahoma State was 4th down yesterday, and he throws that strike in the end zone. Yep. To Tylan Wallace. That was a brave play, a tough play, great throw, do or die. You know, and Cornelius, really, if you really break down his performance yesterday, before I get back to OU, he was at his best on do or die downs. I mean, possession extending downs, 3rd downs, 4th downs. I mean, he was at his best on the most important throws. But Kyler Murray, absolutely. I think if I could do a fantasy draft of every quarterback this year in college football, he'd be my first pick because of the dual threat, because of the arm, because of this. Yep. He's a brilliant kid, and he's unflappable. And I'm telling you, he is so much better. Not that I thought he would be like sensationally adequate is kind of what I thought he'd be.
Yep.
He's a great college player, great player.
I wanted as the theme of this tonight to be how much fun I had watching this game, how much I enjoyed it. That said, I'm watching Kennedy Brooks run through tackles, and we've got to at least put it out there that we are not signing off on this defense, either side, as acceptable or any good. I mean, this was, especially those first 7 possessions where we had 6 touchdowns. I mean, this league and the 2 teams in our state continue to have a problem. Like, it's not getting better. I don't know what you can say. I mean, people have run through all the excuses you possibly can. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know how it's going to get fixed. But, oh, my goodness, there are a lot of missed tackles.
Bedlam 2017, Caden, a combined total of 114 points and nearly 1,500 yards combined. Bedlam yesterday, 1,342 yards combined and 95 points.
It's just stupid.
That's too much.
It's too much.
Yeah.
Too much.
I mean, really, if you compare that to basketball, you're talking about a basketball score of 150 to 141. I mean, really.
Yeah.
I mean that. And
Octavius, let's roll some of that old video. I've been here for 11 years now, or that was my 11th Bedlam, and 5 of them in those 11 years have been just off the charts shootouts. This is 2010. You got Whedon and Blackman here, and Landry Jones with a couple of late touchdowns. This, of those 5 that I'm referencing, was actually the lowest scoring. 47-41 was the final.
James Hanna, big
there
big
he goes,
play.
yeah.
Unforgettable
Guy ended up
play.
playing the NFL.
Yeah.
Stoops knew he stole one. He got out of there all excited. And then 2012 in Norman, you had Clint Shelf leading the way. Josh Stewart with the touchdown here. And then, of course, it was Brennan Clay at the end in overtime. 51-48 was the final there. And then, as you mentioned, last year, 62-52. Yesterday, 48-47. A whole lot of points scored. Look, I'll say this. The offenses are every bit as good as an offense can possibly be in college football. They've been cutting edge in the way they scheme things up. The quarterbacks have been great. The skill position talent around it has been great. We've played great offense in this state for a decade, but the defense hasn't been any good either.
No, it hasn't. It's, and that's why I can't put it on the top shelf as just a classic, an unqualified classic.
Yeah.
It's
yeah,
whether
right.
it's a flawed classic or, I mean, you can't deny it was entertaining. It was great theater. It was on occasion it was even inspiring to see guys play that well, to make plays like that.
I'm with you.
But especially the second half. The second half was much more watchable.
Yeah.
And you know, like you say, the first half was kind of an abomination. I mean, when there's no resistance, I mean that's like 7-on-7 football.
I get to the end of the show and I always want to let you empty the notebook. Do you have anything else there, or do you have any other thoughts on OU as a college football playoff contender potentially?
Well, I mean, they just need more dominoes to fall in front of them.
Need Notre Dame to lose.
They need some dominoes to fall.
Look,
for
and
sure.
I will, you know, I say they got no shot against Alabama and Clemson, and I maintain that. But you could put them in with Michigan, Notre Dame, Georgia, and I think they're just about the equal of those guys. I might put them towards the bottom half because of that defense, because all three of those teams would certainly be able to move the ball pretty much at will. But that OU offense is so formidable. They could beat everybody in the country on any given day, probably with the exception of those two teams at the top who are just exceptional.
I don't know. I will say this about the defense for OU. With 3.5 weeks to prepare for one of those semifinal game opponents,
They'll still give up 60.
I would think so, but I mean, at least you got the 3.5. You go to, you kind of go to, you go to boot camp. You whatever, you pull every string imaginable to try to change or fix.
To me,
or whatever.
it seems like this all happened in recruiting, and we put that mostly on Mike Stoops. He was the defensive coordinator. I don't know how or why he misevaluated to the extent that he did, but it is obvious to me at this point that there just isn't much Ruffin McNeil and Bob Diaco or anybody else on that staff can do about it at this point in time. They are what they are defensively right now.
Because OU is what it is, it's my belief that every single season that they line up, there should be 3 or 4 draftable guys on that defense every year.
Not even close.
Every year. And when I say draftable, I mean like 3rd-year or 4th-year guys who are draft eligible and draft viable. You know what I mean? It should every year that shouldn't be. I don't know. It used to be that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Even in like 08, when people weren't comfortable with the number of points they were giving up, that Sam Bradford team.
Sure.
They had a bunch of dudes on defense who could really get after it, and it is not like that now.
All
right, the purple notebook.
Okay. Anyway, I was thinking about just how college football has changed, and especially around here and in the Big 12. And, Mike Leach really is the godfather of so much of this.
Absolutely.
But I was looking at the Bedlam series in the 90s, 10 games in the 90s. The teams combined, Caden, for 36 points a game. Combined for 36 points a game in those 10 Bedlam games in the 90s. Okay, the 2000s in 10 games, in 10 Bedlam games, the teams combined for 54.5 points.
And that includes a 61-41 game in 08.
That's right.
54, okay. Yeah. And now in the last 9 years?
And it includes, OU had 52, 42, 49, 61. They had big numbers. But on the whole, 54.5 points combined for the Bedlam teams in the 2000s. Now we're in the 2010s.
Yes.
Okay. Through 9 games. The 2 Bedlam teams are combined for 79.9 points per game. Almost 80 points a game combined.
It's stupid.
And, if you love offense, then these are the best of times. And if you love more traditional, balanced football, it's hard to watch for some people.
We were joking on the sideline. I can't remember who I was talking to about this, but we said yesterday, Leach got out at the wrong time for him because OU still had good defensive players and Brent Venables coordinating when Leach left to go to the West Coast. How many yards would his teams throw for against this OU defense or some of those of the last 4 or 5 years? He might throw for 1,000 yards in some of these games. All right, you know who's going to play some defense this week?
Broken Arrow.
The Broken Arrow Tigers are going to play some defense. Big 4 in Class 6A1.
That wasn't even a rehearsed segue.
Doubleheader at TU. You got Broken Arrow, #1 team in the state, undefeated and beating everybody by 2 touchdowns or more, versus the defending state champs, Owasso. They're coached by some guy named Bill Blankenship, who's won state titles in Oklahoma and Arkansas the last 2 years. And then we got Jenks Union in the early game.
No. Let's extend the Blankenship streak back to his
Are we going all the way
his
back
last
to
4 high school seasons.
How about that?
He's got championships.
So you got that to think about.
That's right,
Coach Alexander.
Yeah, I'm excited about the semifinals. I won't get to attend either because I got West Virginia, Oklahoma State. But absolutely, the week after that, I'll attend the 6A1 championship game, and I'm excited about the 6A2 semis as well. Yep. So now we got a little bit of cold weather and meaningful football. And
I'm looking at the 10-day right now. It says 36 is the high tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm not.
18 is the low the next day.
Well, it was 19 yesterday.
Saturday for that doubleheader at TU, they've got 53 and sunny. So get out there and watch our Class 6A1 Powers.
It's all right.
Head to head.
It's supposed to be cold. It's November.
Exactly. That's right. I have a hard time stopping this because I love talking to Bill that much. But that is it for the Rant this week, a Bedlam edition.
It was fun. It was fun. No question about it. I mean, you and I aren't, I guess whether it's an advantage or whatever, I mean, we're not emotionally invested in these games, so we can kind of see them maybe a little differently. But it was, like I said, in regard to yesterday's Bedlam, unbelievable college football entertainment, especially the second half. It was really good.
It sure beat, what? Vanderbilt, Missouri. Oh. No, Northwestern Iowa. That's the one. It sure beat Northwestern Iowa.
Listen, Caden, you know how we all kind of watch games before the start of our games, and we were all in the box, and you got all these variety of games, and I just got fixated on Michigan State,
Ohio State.
And Ohio State. Michigan State offensively is unwatchably bad.
The punt was the most important play in that game, and it wasn't even close. Like, anyway, look. I don't love what we have defensively from the Big 12, but I wouldn't trade it for the Big 10 either.
No. I like touchdowns. I like it's like I like dessert. I like peach cobbler. I don't want it like every meal every day.
That's what we do in the Big 12. We just eat peach cobbler nonstop, and sometimes
I can think of a worse fate than eating peach cobbler all the time.
See you, everybody. Thanks, Bill.